What's up, guys? Welcome back for another reaction video. All right, so I'm checking out 10 things I ate about Sweden, and of course the video is coming from 3 Star Vagabond. All right, guys, yes, I can't wait to check it out because I know it's a Swedish and I know he loves his country. So let's hear about his top 10 things he ate about Sweden. All right, guys, yes, so let's go.
I like Sweden. It's a beautiful country filled with pleasant people and a comfortable way of living. But it's not perfect, far from it. And this is a list of the top things I hate about Sweden.
Okay, now.
When you search online for things people hate about Sweden, you get a huge list of grievances. People often complain about the coldness of the Swedes. We're supposedly unfriendly and reserved. I don't agree, because for me that's the correct way to behave. I often find warmer and more extroverted cultures annoying or even offensive. Another thing people complain about is Swedish food. It's not exactly an international culinary sensation, but it's not that bad. I like it, so I'm not gonna include it in this list. People also complain about the Swedish bureaucracy and that Swedes don't share food with others. That's correct. Swedish people often don't buy rounds, for example, and we don't prepare food for unexpected guests. From our point of view, we see it as quite rude to ask for food or drink if you're not invited. But let's get into the list of things that I actually hate about Sweden.
So guys, like I said, he's from Sweden, so he's gonna tell us his 10 things he ate about Sweden, and the fact that he actually did mention in a video before about unexpected guests, about not feeding them, and his explanation, I totally get it and I totally agree, because sometimes you don't know, like he mentioned about feeding kids without a parent's consent. That is why they don't, feed him. And I totally get it, yeah.
Ever been to a Swedish meeting? It's like a strange social experiment of sorts. You have all of these strong-willed people who want to push their own agenda, but no one really takes charge. Everyone asks all of the others for their opinions, and the meeting drags on and on and on forever. The Swedes are all trying to reach a consensus decision, and if anyone disagrees, well, then you have to take one more round of discussions, because God forbid that anyone leaves the meeting feeling unhappy. This happens in school as well, and in social groups, and everywhere where you have a group of Swedes meeting. I think the collective noun for a group of Swedes should be an indecision. As in, an indecision of Swedes today decided nothing at all and went for a fika instead. Sweden has an unhealthy obsession with fish. Seriously. Pickled herring called sill is served at midsummer, at crayfish parties, at Easter and at Christmas. For some reason, Swedes have decided that this awful herring is a delicacy that needs to be served at every single major holiday. Fish balls is another type of nasty food that's often served at schools. And then you have fish sticks, fried fish, and all kinds of other fishy stuff. If you want to grab a hot dog when you're walking around in Old Town, be careful. What you thought was a hot dog stand could actually end up being a fried herring stand instead. And a special place in hell is reserved for surströmming, Swedish fermented herring that's typically served up north. It literally smells like sewage, and there are countless videos online of people puking when they open a can of surströmming. If anyone tries to invade Sweden, we'll just put surströmming all along the borders. It's cruel and unusual chemical warfare.
I bet that will scare them off. It actually smells like sewage. So how do someone consume that after, when you open it, you smell that smell coming up? You actually eat that afterwards. Oh wow.
Everyone knows about the American dream, but there's something similar in Sweden as well, the Swedish dream. It's called Villa Vove Volvo. Basically, many Swedes just want a nice house of their own, a dog and a car.
Oh,
This is a bit
that
of a
sounds so
stereotype and a
sexy.
generalization, but it's not too far from the truth. Swedish people often don't aim for the stars, they just want to have a decent level of comfort. That also means that people in Sweden are often quite similar to each other. Conformity is a big thing in Sweden. Don't aim too high, don't stick out. What would the neighbors think? The conformity in Sweden is actually pretty frustrating sometimes. Individualism is appreciated as long as you fit in with the rest of the herd. Have you ever felt like you want to have a glass of wine on a Sunday? Maybe you're cooking up a Sunday roast and you want to have a nice rioja to go with that. Well, if you live in Sweden, you should have thought of that a day or two in advance, because otherwise there's no way you're getting that wine. Sweden has an alcohol monopoly, and you can only buy home wine and alcohol from certain state-owned stores called Systembolaget. And those stores are always closed on Sundays. In fact, a decade or two ago, you couldn't buy anything on Saturdays either, because the stores were closed the entire weekend. There are some good things about the alcohol monopoly. Systembolaget has a really good selection for one thing. But won't somebody please think of us poor introverted bastards who wanna drink beer at home on a Sunday and not have to go out to a public place like this? Let's get into some sensitive topics. Sweden has accepted a lot of immigrants. And no, that's not something I hate. What I hate is Swedish integration politics, or the lack thereof. There are many countries that have accepted a lot more immigrants than Sweden, and things have been working out pretty decently for those countries. But what happens in Sweden? It's chaos, it's segregation, and a huge growing unrest. Sweden has basically opened up a floodgate to let people in, with no plan for how to assimilate them into Swedish culture and society. There's basically no integration between Swedes and immigrants, and there's little incentive for people to even give it a try. Everyone is unhappy with the immigration situation. Swedes are unhappy, immigrants are unhappy, and everyone is blaming each other.
Oh wow, that's sad. That is sad. I think they should have set up a system for that before they actually have the immigrants migrating there, I guess. Because he said everyone is blaming each other, like the immigrants are blaming the Swedes and the Sweden are blaming the immigrants for how things are. I guess it kind of like, can you imagine? I don't want to be in a situation like that. Like, there must can be some kind of resolution between the two, between how things work between the two sets of people. I don't know.
Let's dive into an even more sensitive topic. Another thing I hate about Sweden is the casual racism. I'm blonde and blue-eyed, so I don't notice it myself, but there are many reports of foreigners experiencing racist behavior in Sweden. I think that in some cases, these people are confusing normal Swedish introverted behavior for racism, but there's no denying that there's a lot of casual racism in Sweden as well. When I say casual racism, I mean people who don't believe that they're racist, but they still discriminate without thinking about it. Go to any small village in Sweden and you'll hear a lot of prejudice against certain groups of people. They know how people from Afghanistan or Syria or Ethiopia behave, even if they've never met anyone from there. Sweden is a pretty homogeneous country where people haven't had a lot of contact with other cultures or skin colors. This country is very white, and it's not just because of all the snow and ice.
He's saying it without saying it, okay? He's saying it without saying it. So you totally can get it from what he said without saying, okay?
There are two companies that are universally hated in Sweden, PostNord and SJ, the postal service and a railway company. Sweden used to have state-owned companies that handled mail services and the railways, but not anymore. Both of those have been privatized, and with that came a lot of problems. PostNord are handling most of the snail mail and package deliveries in Sweden, and they are horrible at it. Packages go missing, there are delays, notifications aren't sent out, and packages get stolen. And no one at PostNord cares, cause they're still making money. SJ means Statens Järnvägar, the state railways, and they are still owned by the Swedish state. But in 2001 there was a restructuring of the company, and things have been going steadily downhill since then. Railways in Sweden used to be pretty good, but all you see these days are delays and cancellations. I love traveling by train, but going by train in Sweden is like rolling the dice. You never know when you're gonna arrive, or if you'll arrive at all.
Really? Service that bad? Wow.
Norway and Switzerland are two really expensive countries. They always feature in top 10 lists of the most expensive countries in the world. Sweden isn't quite up there in the top 10, but it's not far off. Salaries in Sweden are high, but not super high like in the US, and we pay a lot of taxes. Food and alcohol are taxed extremely high, travel costs a fortune, and entertainment isn't all that entertaining when you need to sell a kidney to afford it. Sweden has a high standard of living, and that's great, but does everything have to cost an exorbitant amount? And these days we have been hit with the highest inflation in Europe as well. What are we doing in Sweden? I love living here, but I don't love the absolutely horrendous cost of everything.
The humongous cost of like waiting on even for name or something. No, it's everything. Like I like that sarcasm that you put in there. But after the video before about the guy that moved to Sweden, and he make it seem like everything there is just so much better and so much cheaper. So I don't know. Like, wow.
Sweden used to be one of the safest countries in the world, and it still is to some extent, unless you happen to be living in certain areas. Gang wars have broken out, and there are frequent reports of shootings and explosions. Violent crimes are increasing dramatically in general, and there are horrible statistics about sexual assaults. But Sweden hasn't actually turned into a frozen Mad Max wasteland, despite all of that. Not yet, at least. If you don't live in the rougher areas, then you won't really notice anything about all of that. And we do have horrible statistics about sexual crimes, but that's at least partly due to a completely different way of reporting it compared to other countries. In general, Sweden is still perfectly safe, especially for tourists. But if we don't do anything about these insane crime waves, then we might very well be in for a Swedish Mad Max scenario in the future. For the final item in this list, what do you think I hate most about Sweden? What is it that makes me seriously consider moving abroad? There's one thing that every Swede loves to complain about. It's hard to imagine it on a day like this, but the top thing to hate about Sweden is of course the weather. And skateboarders. I guess skateboarders as well. Sweden is a beautiful country, filled with majestic forests and mountains, rivers and lakes, and amazing untouched nature. It's just a pity that it's always covered in snow or rain or something in between. And even if it's not snowing or raining, it's still always just a little bit too cold. Look, we have some great summers here. Swedish summers is just about as perfect as it gets. The problem is that Swedish summer is basically 1 week per year. The rest of the time you're always cold and miserable and thinking about how nice it would be to live in Thailand or Spain. So the thing I hate most about Sweden, despite how it may look today, is the weather. And there you have it. That was my list of the top things I hate about Sweden. I hope you found it interesting. Like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a great day. Oh, and check out this video as well for even more possibly interesting things about Sweden.
Oh, wow. That was really interesting to listen to, guys. Well, some 1 week per year. I would have to visit Sweden when it has that 1 week summer because me in the cold. Okay. Yeah, it was surely interested hearing his points of 10 things that he hate about Sweden. Okay, guys. So yeah, he pointed out some really interesting things, and I didn't know that they had that type of violence there. Yeah, and sexual assault. Like, oh, wow. I guess it's not surprising because a lot of places in a lot of country dealing with crimes and sexual assault behavior and stuff like that. Yeah, the weather. The weather is one thing that I'm gonna take for sure. Being there. Mm-mm. But it was a very interesting video. Always enjoy watching his video, and it's when he bring his point across and the way how he brings it across, sometimes with the sarcasm, like yeah, I enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy this one, guys. Like I said, it's always interesting to learn. All right, never too young, never too old, and to learn about different people point of view on the countries and facts and culture. Okay, is very good. All right, so don't forget to live, love, laugh, and to learn. Catch you in another video, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.